All right, so reading question 4.30 is a limiting reagent question. They tell us, again, we got the Haber process. So we're going to have nitrogen reacts with hydrogen to produce 2 moles of ammonia. And they say in this reaction, we have 1.15 grams of hydrogen and we have 3.75 grams of nitrogen. How much ammonia can we make based on that? So it might not look like a limiting reagent problem from the start, but it is because we need to figure out based on the hydrogen, how much ammonia could we make? Based on the nitrogen, how much ammonia could we make to therefore say, right, what's there in excess or what limits our reaction? So the kind of the tricky part with this is the one we did in class, the questions we did in class, we started with moles. Here, they moved us a step back. They're starting us with grams. So we have to find moles first before we can find the moles of product that we're going to make in this reaction. So we're going to kind of do the same steps with both the nitrogen and the hydrogen. All right, I've got 1.15 grams of hydrogen. I know the molar mass, 2.02 grams per mole. And I want to do the same thing with nitrogen, 3.75 grams of nitrogen, right? And nitrogen is 28 grams per mole. So we can find the moles of both of those. 1.15 divided by 2.02, like 0.569 moles of hydrogen. Do the same thing with nitrogen, 3.75 divided by 28. I get 1.133 moles of nitrogen. So this is where we started the problem in class, right? We had moles of each of those, and we wanted to find out, okay, based on the moles of each of those, what's my limiting reagent? So we're at that step now where we can use these to find the mass of ammonia made in the reaction. Because the next step, right, the next step that we did was we want to convert them both to the same thing so we can directly compare how much of each we would make. So I want to say, okay, for every 3 moles of hydrogen, I'm going to make 2 moles of ammonia. That's my first ratio. My other ratio is for every 1 mole of nitrogen, I'm going to make 2 moles of ammonia. So up first, we know 3 moles of hydrogen in, 2 moles of ammonia out. And then down here, we know, okay, 1 mole of nitrogen in, I'm going to get 2 moles of ammonia out. And now we're going to have them in the same units, right? So multiply that one by 2, we're going to get 0.2678 moles of ammonia. The other one, we're going to multiply by 2 over 3. So 0.569 times 2 over 3. And we get approximately 0.3793 moles of ammonia. So what is our limiting reagent? Yeah, the nitrogen limits what we can make in the reaction because based on the nitrogen, we only make 0.2678 moles of ammonia. Based on the hydrogen, we could make 0.37. That's more. So yeah, the nitrogen limits our reaction. So we're done with hydrogen. We don't need to do any more calculations because we know that's there in excess. So to find out how much ammonia would be made, right, the reaction stops here at 0.2678 moles of ammonia because that nitrogen limits our reaction. So now we just have to carry forward with the 0.2678 moles of ammonia. That's how much we're going to make in the reaction because that's how much nitrogen allows us to make ammonia. So now we just want to find out the mass of that, all right? ammonia, the molar mass is 17 grams per 1 mole. And I wrote that the back wrong way, right? For every 1 mole of ammonia, we need to have 17 grams of ammonia. So we're going to multiply that by 17. All right, times 17, which is the molar mass to get, all right, I can make approximately 4.55 grams of ammonia in this reaction. All right, so this was a limiting reagent calculation because we were given the mass, right, of the hydrogen, the nitrogen. We can't just look at the mass and say what the limiting reagent is, because you might have guessed hydrogen was the limiting reagent because I only have 1.15 grams. But there's two issues there. The first issue is that hydrogen weighs a lot less, so we don't need as much. And the other issue is the mole ratio, right? We actually need 3 times the moles of hydrogen as the moles of nitrogen. So we want to take into account the molar mass. So now we bring them both into moles, and then we bring the mole ratio in to bring them both into moles of ammonia. So we can directly say, based on the hydrogen, I would only make 0.2678 moles of ammonia. So the reaction stops here. That limits what I can make in the reaction. Therefore, I don't need to worry about the hydrogen. It's there in excess. I don't need that anymore for my calculation. I just need this number to say the reaction stops here with that many moles of ammonia. That comes out to be about 4.55 grams. So for any of these limiting reagent calculations, we're going to do them the same calculation for both reagents in the reaction to say, to get to the point where we can directly compare those units and say we're in the same units, so I can compare those numbers and see, okay, hydrogen is in excess, the nitrogen is what limits the reaction, and therefore will limit what we can make in that reaction.